Yo, I just wrote this new book, How to Rob the Bank Legally and Buy Your First Investment Property. It's a must that you tap in and come buy it, man. It'll give you the education, all the information.
Step 6. Chess, not checkers. Take a moment to look things over. Some people believe there are deals and there are deals. But what makes a good deal for me does not always make a good deal for you. So, what do we use to determine if a deal is good or bad? The 65% rule. The 65% rule is one of my favorites. This is where we want the all-in cost, to include the purchase price and construction cost, to be 65% or less of the ARV, after repair value. This is extremely important and dictates that the purchase and renovation cost should not be greater than 65% of the property's post-renovation value. Notice I just said the same thing, but differently, because I really need you to get this. If for any reason the total of both costs exceeds 65% of the post-renovation value of the property, the deal is not considered to be a good deal. You should walk away from such a deal or negotiate to where you have an excellent deal. Once you have determined what the purchase and renovation costs will be and the estimated post-renovation value of the property, you can determine if this deal is a good deal for you. The purpose of the 65% rule is to ensure that we can recover our initial investment by doing a cash-out refinance. Next time you consider investing in a property, apply the 65% rule without compromise. 0.65 ARV equals purchase plus construction. Once you find the after-repair value, then you determine the construction cost. You can use these figures to determine the maximum purchase price, i.e., ARV equals $100,000, construction equals $45,000. 0.65 times $100,000, $65,000, minus $45,000 is $25,000. The reason this analysis is so important when done correctly is because when it is time to refinance the property at 75% to 80% of the value, you will be in a position to recoup our initial funds. This is powerful because you can scale a lot faster without your funds getting depleted. Cash flow analysis. The cash flow analysis entails calculating anticipated rent payments for the particular area, less anticipated monthly property expenses. Estimated rental rates can be accessed on www.rentometer.com. Additionally, the local housing authority for the area can provide you with something called a payment schedule. The payment schedule shows a breakdown of rental rates for a 1-bedroom, a 2-bedroom, up to a 6-bedroom house in specific areas. Some of the property expenses will include monthly mortgage payment, principal and interest, taxes and insurance, maintenance, vacancy rate, 2% to 6% of the total rent, property management fee, 7 to 10%. However, I like going with Section 8 rentals because these are 2-year leases typically, and they're going to be in the property for the long term. That's what it's all about, getting that long-term tenant, which means long-term cash flow. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip. Search for the FMR rents in Google to access the fair market rent in any zip code in America. This information will determine the rental values the government is willing to pay based on the number of bedrooms of a property. Example of cash flow. Revenue. Rent, $1,300. Expenses. Mortgage, $500. Taxes and insurance, $150. Maintenance, 5%, $65. Vacancy rate, 2%, $26. Property management, 7%, $91. Profit, or cash flow, $468. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip. I prefer to have cash flow of $300 plus per door. 1% rule. This is another way to conduct your cash flow analysis. The 1% rule dictates that you should have a cash flow of at least 1% of the property's purchase price. For example, if you purchase for $100,000, you should be collecting at least $1,000 in rent to cover the debt efficiently. This quick measure will give you an idea if you should spend more time analyzing the deal if it doesn't meet the 1% rule. Most of the properties I was able to pick up for pennies on a dollar from foreclosures follow the 2% rule. You may not achieve this in the beginning. However, adopt and apply the 1% rule as your investment rule of thumb. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip: Homesteps.com and Homepath.com are two sites that list foreclosed properties which are typically below market prices. If we see an increase in foreclosures, these sites need to be added to your favorites. 20% down analysis. The 20% down analysis is where the return on investment is assessed based on a 20% down payment and the estimated annual cash flow. In other words, you are analyzing to determine how long it will take you to break even or to recoup your 20%. When purchasing turnkey properties or properties that do not need work, you would put down 20% of the purchase price, plus closing cost. Just so you know, the remaining 80% would be covered by your financial institution, such as your bank, credit union, or investor-friendly lender. How does the 20% analysis work? First and foremost, you should only make a 20% down payment on a property that is turnkey. You should be able to make the down payment and start collecting rent almost immediately. Therefore, in analyzing, look at the annual rent payment to be received. From that amount, take out your expenses, such as mortgage, taxes, insurance, and maintenance, even your property management fees. Whatever is left becomes cash flow. The cash flow should go toward recouping the 20% plus closing cost you initially invested in the property. For example, property purchase price, $65,000. 20% down, $13,000. Closing cost, 5%, $3,250. Total out-of-pocket cost, $16,250. Monthly cash flow, $700. Number of months to break even equals $16,250 divided by $700 equals 23.2 months. In this scenario, it will take 23 months to recoup the initial down payment through collecting cash flow from the property. Another term often used in real estate is the cash-on-cash return. In this scenario, the cash-on-cash return would be as follows. Cash-on-cash return equals annual before-tax cash flow, total cash invested, equals $700 times 12, $16,250, equals $8,400, $16,250. Cash-on-cash return equals 51.7% annually. When I started as a real estate investor, I made 20% down payments on multiple investment properties in Coatesville. What I liked about it was that my return on investment was impeccable. I saw a return on investment of 65 to 80% return on my funds. Return on investment speaks to the rate of earning from an investment. For example, your initial investment equals $10,000. Your monthly cash flow after expenses equals $1,000. 1,000 divided by 10,000 equals 10%. Therefore, you are getting a 10% return on your capital each month. I would recommend that you use an ROI calculator to see how your money investment is performing. Visit www.calculator.net and search for ROI calculator. When playing the 20% down game, it is important to know that your growth is not as fast because you may have to wait for your capital to build back. This is when compared to the BRRRR strategy. However, putting 20% down is much faster than paying all cash for properties when scaling. While you are building your empire, it is essential to have the discipline to put away the cash flow to buy the next deal. We have to remember that we are playing the long game. If we spend our cash flows right away, we would miss out on massive asset accumulation and potentially remain in the rat race. When it comes to real estate, the returns are astronomical, primarily when you invest in cash-flowing assets. It allows you more control over the asset and more control over the returns. That is because you can increase rental rates in the up market and lower them in the down market. Nonetheless, the game aims to make sure that you know how to analyze a deal. Step 7. Place your bet. Make an offer. Once you have completed your analysis and are comfortable moving forward, it's time to create and make your offer. The primary things you need to consider at this stage are the offer price and contingencies. Several other things go into the offer. However, those are determined by other factors and not necessarily your actual analysis. When you are crafting your offer, it is also vital to do some preliminary work. Do your research. With the necessary data, you will be able to make an informed offer. Assess what other properties have sold for in that general area. Some essential questions to ask include: what price range are comparable homes selling for? Is the property newly renovated, dated, or is it in shell condition? What was the price per square foot? Price divided by square feet. What is the legal zoning of the property? Single or multifamily? How many days has the property been on the market? The longer the property has been on the market means either it's priced too high, it may have issues, which may ultimately be an opportunity to get the price lower. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip: look at the sale price of comparable homes in similar condition near the property you are looking to make an offer on. Take the sales price and divide by the number of square feet to help give an understanding of what things are selling per square foot. Example: sale price $250,000. Square feet 1,450. Price per square foot equals 250,000 divided by 1,450 equals $172.41. Let's say your comparable property is 1,300 square feet. I recommend multiplying the price per square foot by $172.41, which will give you a price point of $224,133. This will give you an idea of the price point of your property. The appraisal forms I have designed will help you with this. You can also use some of the ARV calculators that I've put together. Those steps will arm you with the information you need to make your best offer and help you when it's time to negotiate with that seller. Crafting your offer. The first thing you need is an agreement of sale form. The form will serve as a sales contract crafted by you or your buying entity, i.e., if you are buying in your name or under a business name. In your offer, always ask for certain contingencies. A contingency will help you get out of the deal for any reason, such as business partner doesn't approve or based on the property inspection findings. For example, after the contractor and the engineer inspect the property, you get a report. Then you realize the cost to renovate exceeds your budget. The contingency in your offer would give you the power to exit the deal. Additionally, ask for things that you do not need. It won't harm you, so why not ask? For example, ask for all the trash removed from the property. Ask for the hedges to be trimmed. Ask for some things that you want but don't necessarily need. Especially if you have a low offer, ask, ask, ask. You don't get to do it every time. Also, if there is something that you believe you cannot go into the deal without, make a note in the offer that it is non-negotiable. So, remember, what you put in your offer should be for your benefit. Back up your best money offer with contingencies and small asks. Remember how I asked for some things I did not need? Well, the seller could say, "We can't remove the trash, but we can honor you the price you offered." That means not everything on your offer will survive the negotiation process. Some things will get trimmed. Therefore, ask for what you need and what you want. Some things might stick, but the real reason for asking is to disguise the low number you want to get for that property. Then, get ready to negotiate. Everything in real estate is dependent on the deals that are made. Therefore, it's important to be prepared for the negotiation process. Have a clear understanding of and the discipline to stick to the decisions you made based on your research and previous analysis. Never go against your numbers just to make the deal work. For example, if you decide that the highest you can go on a deal is $60,000 and the seller offers to do the deal at $70,000, do not do it. Be prepared to go against your mind at this point. I can guarantee you, your mind will begin to convince you that you can trim costs in other areas to afford the additional 10 grand. You do not need to force a deal for the sake of a deal. It's best to make clear to the seller your cap offer. If that fails, walk away with respect for your decision, but never go against your numbers. After you have crafted your offer and made your submission, be open-minded. Your offer may be accepted, countered, or rejected. Do not be afraid of rejection. Rejection is part of the game. You can make 100 offers, but only 5 get selected, or only 5 gets pushed to the next level. Trust the steps you use, make your analysis, and confidently make your offer every single time. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip. In a competitive market, you can put an escalation clause in your agreement. If someone bids on the property higher than your initial offer, the clause automatically will raise your offer to supersede that offer. Only go to the max of where the numbers still make sense for the deal. Remember the 65% rule. Step 8. Talk that talk. It's time to negotiate. Whether you realize it or not, everyone by nature is a negotiator. Whether we are smooth negotiators or nervous wrecks, we negotiate in almost everything every day, even if it's with ourselves. Your wins determine successful negotiation. Therefore, to win your negotiations, here are a few keys. Be prepared. As a real estate investor, preparation for negotiation means you do your due diligence. Do your research on the property, the neighborhood, rental rates, and even about the seller. Google the seller's name, see what else they have going on. You might find out that the seller was recently divorced and liquidated his whole portfolio for pennies on a dollar. But without that information, you might be going into that negotiation paying too much. You may find out the seller's actual costs where he will break even. Therefore, you are never ready for negotiation if you have not done your due diligence. The more prepared you are, the better you will be at negotiating. Know your goal. What exactly is your goal with this negotiation? Is it to get the house for a specific price? Is it to have the seller do some type of repairs or give you concessions? If you are unsure of your goal, you need to go back to step 6 and redo your analysis. That is why it is essential to read this entire book before taking each step. You must know your goal or what you're working towards. If you do not know your goal, you have no business making an offer, much less negotiating an offer. Know your goal and keep it in mind every step of the way. Know your strike price. Your strike price is the maximum price you're willing to pay for that asset. Again, if you do not know your strike price, you need to go back to step 6 and redo your analysis. Once you have your strike price, you can go into the negotiation more confident than if you did not have that number. Note, when you go to negotiate, you do not have to start at that strike price. Always come in at least 5 to 10% to even 15% lower than that true strike price. Remember, negotiating is a psychological thing. Starting at your strike points is a strike out on the first shot. For example, when you say to the seller, I would be comfortable at $45,000. $55,000 is way out of my comfort zone, but okay, we will go with $55,000. You have just won the negotiation because all along, your strike price was $60,000 or $65,000. The lesson here is to know your strike price and always come in lower. Here is where you apply that 65% rule and get some great deals. Keep your composure. When you are negotiating, always, always, always remain calm, cool, and collected. Whatever you do, do not get emotionally excited about the deal. Do not suggest that you are excited and can't wait to buy the property because the person on the other side will know that they have you. At that point, you may never get to negotiate below your strike point. They should never know that you are a motivated buyer. Even if the deal is good, remain calm, cool, and collected. Keep a poker face. Do not expose your emotions in any way. It is best if you do not get irrational, do not raise your voice, do not get scared. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip. Do not speak first. It is said that the first one that speaks always loses. What does that mean? A classic example is you are negotiating and you say, I need this done for $4,000. The person just told you they could do it for $6,500. You then come back and say, I need it done for $4,000. Can you do it for that number? The next thing you do is say nothing. You remain silent for however long it takes. The first person who talks is more desperate, and that person will settle and lose. You might have to remain silent for 1 minute, 10 minutes, a couple of days. Then if that person comes around and says, you know what, I've been thinking, then you move in for the kill without becoming excited. The lesson here is, do not be first to speak. Make it a win-win. It is a better feeling when everyone wins than when one person wins and the other person feels cheated. Look at the negotiations from both sides and try to make sure that it's a win-win situation for everyone involved. I like putting together these win-win situations so that everyone leaves that negotiation table satisfied. He didn't get everything he wanted, and I didn't get everything that I wanted in the deal, but at least we're able to agree and make the exchange take place. Ask for the moon. I like to throw in a whole bunch of knickknacks. If it's a property, I'm like, hey, can you include the TVs? Can you include cleaning out the backyard and getting rid of all the junk out of the property? Add on different things and just see what sticks, even though you already know what your strike price is. While they are focusing on all these different items, focus on getting below your strike price. What matters is if the final numbers fit your calculation. Bottom line, be confident. Know your goal. Know your strike price. Wait. Do not speak first. Make it a win-win. Ask for the moon. Whoa, I can already see your wins. Step 9. Review and sign the deal. After establishing that the deal makes sense, add contingencies. The contingencies are the route you will take to get out of the deal if necessary. So, what types of contingencies should you be considering at this point? Financing contingency. That means that the deal going through is based on you receiving financial approval. Financial approval could be from a bank, private moneylender, etc. If for any reason you don't want to move forward with the deal, you can get what we call a turndown letter to come out of the deal. A turndown letter is a letter from a financial institution stating that they will not fund the deal. Partner approval contingency. Your partner could be anyone, but for whatever reason, if you get to the point where your partner says, you know what, this is no longer a good deal. We don't want to move forward. You can get out of that deal and get your earnest money deposit back. Inspection approval contingency. That contingency is based upon inspection. For example, you are out of town. As you draft your offer, you can include the inspection approval. That means you can use the outcomes of the inspection as a reason to exit the deal. Include an earnest money deposit. A contract is not a legally binding document without the exchange of some money. Even if it's $1, an exchange of funds must take place for that deal to be fully executed. Therefore, when you sign the deal, make sure you make an earnest money deposit. Remember, it is an earnest money deposit. Hence, the funds should be kept in a safe place. It can be given to the title company or the brokerage firm for safekeeping. Either way, you should not give it to the seller. Anything can happen. Also, make sure the funds are recorded and documented where necessary. The earnest money deposit can range from 0.5% to 5% of the deal. Often, it is recommended to be closer to 1% of the purchase price. As you build your empire and begin to have multiple deals under contract at once, the lower the earnest money deposit, the better. When you close on the deal, the funds from the earnest money deposit will go toward the purchase of the property. For any reason you do not close on the property and you do not have a contingency clause, the funds will go to the seller of the property. Step 10. Do your due diligence. You have to put the work in. Due diligence, in this case, is where you research and assess the property with an investigative eye. That means you will look at everything about the property under a microscope, for the known and the unknown. Due diligence for real estate investors involves a set of coordinated activities toward the same goal. Home inspection. One way you can do your due diligence is by hiring a home inspector. The home inspector will visit the property and thoroughly check everything from top to bottom, A to Z. They will check the heating system, roof, plumbing, electrical, foundation, exterior, interior basement, ventilation, leaking, etc. After the inspection, they will submit to you a report on their findings and recommendation. If the inspector does not readily tell you what needs immediate fixes and what to expect soon or long term, feel free to ask. All those details and more must be included in the report. That information is crucial because it will form part of your analysis. It will become information you can use to determine if you want to move forward with purchasing the property, especially if it's not an as-is property. As-is property means the property is sold in its current condition, with no exceptions. Contractor inspection. Inspecting with your contractor can be the difference between a bad deal and an exponentially great deal. Your contractor will be able to give you renovation costs on the spot. The value added here is that you will get working information for your analysis. Zoning inspection. Zoning in real estate refers to the municipal guidelines that govern how a property can or cannot be used based on its location. A zoning inspection will inform you if you are operating with the law's guidelines or any concessions available to make the property more profitable. Zoning is particularly important in multifamily property investment. For example, you may be prospecting a property that you intend to use as a 5-unit rental property. When you look into zoning regulations, you may realize that you cannot do 5 units by only doing a single-family property. Even if you could afford the property, it would destroy your finances. That is because your numbers analysis would be based on the 5 units, not 1. You could spend the money and painstakingly go through the variance process, but there is no guarantee that they would approve the variance request. Wouldn't you prefer to do a zoning inspection instead of going through all of that? Tenant review. If you're buying a building that is occupied with tenants, you must conduct a tenant review. That to unveil any issues and identify room for improvement or change. Have a conversation with tenants by asking, is there anything you would like to change about the space you occupy? Is there anything to be fixed in the space you occupy? What do you love most about being here? Do you have anything that challenges the way you use the unit? Try to find out as much as you can from the current occupant of the property. The last thing you want to do is take on someone else's headache. If you have a squatter, it will require time, money, legal services to remove them from the property. Hence, you need to conduct a thorough tenant review. Profit and loss review. Carefully review the profit and loss statement of the property you are interested in, if the property is already rented and the seller indicates the revenue. Ask for more information so you can dive a little deeper into the revenue history of the property. To do this, in addition to the profit and loss statement, also ask for a pro forma. These documents tell a story, and if that story is inaccurate, you will also know. They will show you the past and future of the business. It will show you if there has been a seamless transition from one period to the next, or if unrealistic forecasting is being done. Chances are you will find something to confirm or question if the investment is a good deal or not. Partner review. If you have a partner or partners on any particular deal, it is prudent that you go over the entire investment plan with your partner. Regardless of the type of relationship you have with your partner, make sure that you and your partner fully understand the plan. After discovering all the new information, make sure that the plan makes sense to all parties involved. Remember, due diligence should not be compromised or substituted. Always trust the findings or dig a little deeper. Teamwork makes the dream work, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team. Step 11. Renegotiate. After you have analyzed your due diligence findings, this is your opportunity to get the price lower. Remember, your focus is to reasonably get as far below your strike price as possible. Your renegotiating points should be based on potential and unforeseen problems. Deferred maintenance. In your inspection, you may have realized that maintenance on the heater is almost due, or that it will need to be replaced very soon. You may have also identified things that need immediate fixing. All these issues can be treated as deferred maintenance. They are grounds for which you can negotiate and ask for a discount if any costly repairs may not have been accounted for when you initially made your offer. That could include the roof needing a complete replacement. Pointing this out will give you another reasonable opportunity to get the price a little lower. Now, keep in mind, in real estate, your reputation is everything, as in other industries. Note, you don't want to be known as the person who always renegotiates. Therefore, you should only go back when it's worth it. If there is a substantial deferred maintenance issue or significant repair costs, you absolutely will have to renegotiate or end up walking away from the deal. But if it's not truly an issue, do not risk it. Remember, you cannot put a price on your reputation. Step 12. Decide how you are going to cover the costs. Now we're getting a little closer. You have gone through all the due diligence, and you've decided on the price. Now, it's all about securing funding. The name of the game is to use other people's money. I like the acronym OPM, other people's money. Although you may be able to afford the purchase and renovation with your cash, it is best to reserve your cash and use other people's money. However, your business/investment portfolio will not grow very fast if you use your cash to do everything. Here are some ways you can use OPM to purchase assets. Private money. One way to leverage OPM is through private money. Private money might be from a collection of family members or friends who have extra funds sitting around, such as their 401k. That is where analyzing the deals at the 65% rule becomes very important. So, by the time you do the cash-out refinance, you're able to return your private money lenders their money plus the agreed interests. This type of arrangement helps you to keep acquiring assets and meeting your repayment obligations. Note, your cash is still in your pocket. Hard money loans. These are short-term loans with high interest rates. Traditionally, hard money type loans will fund 80 to 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovation/construction cost. Therefore, you would need to fund the 10 to 20% down payment. So, hard money is a great option, mainly because they're lending based on the asset, and you only need the minimum credit score. Hard money loan arrangements vary from lender to lender. However, once the asset is stabilized and rented, after using a hard money loan to acquire and fix the asset, you can proceed to refinance into a longer-term mortgage. Business lines of credit. Some other ways to acquire the asset are with business lines of credit. If you have an LLC or an S corporation, you can access loans from the bank called business lines of credit or even credit cards. You can leverage these loans to purchase assets. It could be for the total asset and the entire construction or a portion of the purchase price. Let's look at a typical scenario. You have identified a property that you have negotiated a deal that you need to finance. You have access to a hard money loan, but you need to make that 10 to 20% down payment. That is where your line of credit or credit card comes in. Your business line of credit is used to make the down payment. As soon as cash flow is stabilized, after purchase and renovations, you can refinance into a long-term mortgage. You can now pay off that business line of credit from the cash flow and repeat the process. Using credit cards for the down payment is very similar to using business lines of credit. Often, we receive blank checks from our credit card companies. Most people shred them. These are balance transfer checks, which often come with a teaser rate such as 0% interest for 15 months. You can use balance transfer checks that people often receive from credit card companies, your credit, to fund balance transfers or drafted checks. However, credit cards may come with different requirements that you must observe to ensure you still can pay obligations before cash flow is stabilized. There are also ways to use your credit card to cover the construction cost. Where financing your real estate investment is concerned, do not be afraid to use other people's money. Happy investing. Step 13. Identify how your investment will be managed. Your property is an asset, and like every asset, your property will need management. You have the option to manage the property on your own or hire a property management company to provide that service. If you choose to use a property management company, you need to find the most efficient and cash flow-oriented company. You need a property management company that will provide the following: find you tenants, collect the rent, sending late notices, handle maintenance and repair issue. Most property management companies charge a service fee of between 7 to about 10% of your monthly revenue. That means they are paid first from your cash flow. That is before your other expenses are deducted. All property charges are your charges. The property management company simply becomes your contractor, whose team carries out maintenance and repairs on your property. For example, if your property needs plumbing repairs, the property management company hires a third party to carry out those repairs, even if that person is also on their in-house maintenance team. The plumber then bills the property management company for the services. The company then marks up the plumbing charge by 10%. Then you are billed for the total. If the plumber charges $100, you will be billed $110. The additional $10 goes to the property management company. Again, You have the option to manage your investment property on your own. In Chapter 4, Build a Strong Team, we looked at managing the property on your own with the help of a virtual assistant. However, you also have the option to create your own property management company. It's not as hard as it seems, and I believe if you wish to, you have what it takes to get it done. The strategy I have used to manage my properties is creating my property management team and hiring a virtual assistant. In places like the Philippines, people will work from anywhere between $3 to $7 an hour, and they can manage your property for you by simply setting up your business electronically. They will set up your business on software that will allow you to receive payments, report maintenance or repair issues, request maintenance or repair services. There are a variety of software/platforms that can help you manage your properties. Some software platforms are free. Property management platforms I would recommend are www.cozy.co, www.buildium.com, and www.appfolio.com. Cozy is great for investors with under or just about 40 units. It allows you to pay online and do background checks right from the portal. Your tenants can submit their maintenance requests and you can respond to them in real time. You can also track all the revenue coming in and generate a profit and loss for each property you put into that system. As you acquire more and more units, you will need a more robust platform. Buildium is suited for those investors with 40 and upwards in real estate property investment. If you need a sturdy, reliable system with features that will complement the size of your investment portfolio, Buildium is a good choice. Plenty of people I know in the real estate industry have found success using the Appfolio platform to support the management of their properties. The platform provides an excellent suite of online management features that have worked well for our tenants and us. The monthly fee is a bit pricey, but the efficiency the features allow is priceless. We can communicate with all of our tenants at one time. The platform can generate automated letters and text messages to be sent to tenants, based on our instructions and much more. To create a well-oiled management system, you will need to pair your online software with a team on the ground. You can create a team by developing a contact list of efficient, reliable, skilled service providers to address electrical, plumbing, roofing, carpentry issues from time to time. You should have at least 3 service providers for each category and a handyman. Once you have a team of service providers in place, your virtual property manager assistant can handle the issue that arises. Your VA will coordinate with the tenant and dispatch a service provider based on the issue. The VA informs the tenant of the confirmed timelines, and that image will take necessary pictures of the service provided. The service provider will submit images during or after the job and send an invoice for payment. Your VA will confirm job completion and issue payment as well. This strategy has worked efficiently for many real estate investors, so do not hesitate to do this with your properties. Become your own property management company. If you want to take your real estate investment journey to the next level, you have a few options. You can partner with a broker, get your real estate license, or become your own property management company. Using your resources to manage other people's properties, you have created cash flow to cover your property management cost. Therefore, every 10% service fee you collect goes toward covering maintenance and repairs for your properties. Hire a leasing agent. Hiring a leasing agent is a popular part of managing a property. The aim of the game is to fill all vacancies. Therefore, if hiring someone to focus on securing tenants will help you get maximum capacity, go right ahead. Hiring a leasing agent will save you time and money. More specifically, hiring someone you know and trust. A leasing agent liaises with potential tenants, conducts viewings of the properties, creates leases, and hands over keys and oversees them moving into the property. For this service, she receives the first month's rent or the security deposit. You too can hire a leasing agent and negotiate how much you will pay for that service. A leasing agent's typical payout is either a first month's rent or a half month's rent. If you hire a property management company, you will not need to hire a leasing agent. Instead, you would include the finding of tenants as part of the property management agreement. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip. As you acquire more and more properties, you will need to be less involved in each's daily management. The name of the game is to have a system that is as automated as possible. Then, hire someone else to manage that system for you. That will give you more time and space to concentrate on finding deals and growing your business. There you have it. Look at where you are in the business and choose the property management strategy that is best for you. Step 14. Grand opening, grand closing. Congratulations on your new investment and cash flow. When you go to the closing table, you'll need to have your certified check in hand. I hope you are ready to collect the keys. An overwhelmingly beautiful feeling. When you do it for the first time, you will know exactly what I mean. Characteristically, before the closing, the title company will send you what we call a HUD-1 settlement statement. That document breaks down all of the financial transaction details taking place between the buyer and the seller. It shows all related charges and credits to the buyer and seller, such as taxes, insurance, loan, and how much money is brought to the table for closing the deal. You will also need a certified cashier's check, which you will take to the closing meeting. Once all details are confirmed and all parties are on the same page, you can hand over payment, the check. All other payouts within that deal can be made at that time as well. Then collect your keys, and the asset is now yours. Black Jew 182 Pro Tip. You can close remotely by letting your title company or closing attorney know ahead of time that you choose to close remotely. They will prepare a deed package for you, which includes all of the necessary paperwork that you will have to sign with the notary, and then FedEx or overnight the package back to the title company or closing attorney. If you are the buyer, you can have the funds wired to the title company. Your following immediate action is to ensure the sales transaction is filed with the state or county. That ensures that the state knows you are now the owner, the transfer of ownership is documented, and the deed is updated. So, that way that transferred ownership is shown. Congratulations on following all 14 steps and closing on your next real estate investment.
We cannot keep fighting against each other, killing each other, because we all losing and they're winning. Let's start with just giving people appreciation for them being there. Work with them, man. It's going to take a lot of time. Some people learn differently, but just start with one person. Build with them, man. I got young boys. I be helping them, man, and I got to argue with them every single day of the week, but I just take the time to slowly break the information down over and over and over again. And guess what? Now they starting to win. I'm about to start showing you their documentaries, their journeys through life, and all the things they had to come through.